welcome again, and thank you so much for accepting this invitation and talking to us about your experiences and sharing your knowledge. Yeah, Chimigoich.
Oh, miigwech. Bonjour. Wabas Gisco Nikan Kai Tabit, Mr. Kos, Muckle Dodam, Dunjaba, Lenape Nation, Lani Lenape, Nishnawbe Clay and Dow. So what I said is my spirit name is the center and the fire of all of who I am that talks and shares and describes my purpose and gifts and why I'm here on Turtle Islands. And so it means white bear woman, polar bear woman who's looking ahead. And the extension of that name is from the water. And so that is part of my roles and responsibilities. Part of it is to sit with women, be with women, and help and teach and guide and empower. But the reciprocity goes back and forth because I also learn and I'm being taught. And I'm also being shown too as well that understanding and the importance of water. And the importance of water is so important. And this whole topic that we're going to talk about, I'll get more into, of that in the Anishinaabe language, it's called Minabawadzewin. And it means living that good life that Creator intended us to. You know, we each and every one of us, all human beings across Turtle Island, all human beings around the world, under the universe, has a role, has a purpose, and has a gift. So first of all, I want to start off by opening up with a prayer, a prayer and the opening of first of all, acknowledging each and every one of our ancestors here. Each of our ancestors that has come to here in this beautiful, even though it's Zoom, I call it our cyber circle. This is our virtual circle, and and just to give thanks to Mother Earth, and I'm here in Chatham, Ontario.
Tracey, something happened to your voice, Tracey.
We are, and in how important each and every one of you are. So I want to give thanks to Mother Earth. I want to give thanks to the plants. I want to say chimikwach to those plants, those beautiful gardens, the flowers, all those wonderful things that each of us are grounding us to. This COVID-19 has really brought some many solutions as well when we really look at it, when our families are getting together and getting closer, and a lot of us are gardening and connecting with Mother Earth and really wanting to make those positive changes. So I want to give thanks. I want to acknowledge, our gardens, the trees, the plants, and all those things that sustain us, that feed us and take care of us. I want to give thanks to the water, to the rivers, the lakes, the brooks, all of those. In our language and in our ceremonies, that water represents the blood of our Mother Earth. And so the purity and taking care of that. And those are some of the roles and responsibilities that and what I do and other grandmas all across Turtle Island, we sit and we teach women how important that water is. Can anybody hear me okay? Yeah? Okay. And also I want to acknowledge the sun and how beautiful and what it does for us. It nurtures us. It heals us, and it takes care of us. And again, like everything else, you go out and you just nurture enough, just enough to take that in. And we give thanks. We give thanks. And the four-leggeds, those creepy crawlers, those swimmers, those fish, all of those teach us that we have purpose and gifts. They teach us what our purpose is, and what we need to do in this good life. I want to give thanks to when we go into the nighttime. We look at our grandmother moon, and and she goes through different stages. It reminds us how sometimes we go through different stages in life too, whether it's different stages in life, whether it's different stages in what we need to do in our healing, whether it's different stages of all, whatever, whether it's work, family, but it reminds us how important as human beings are, and that as spiritual beings are here to live this wonderful, beautiful human experience here. And give thanks, and I acknowledge the stars, sky world, some of us call heaven, spirit world. I want to give thanks to all that there is and to all of creation. And if I forgot anything, when what I was taught, when I say in all that there is, that includes everything. And that includes you, your family, and all those things that we do. And I say, chimiquach, 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 all my relations. Mm. So that was just a short opening. When we sit in our ceremonies, at times you sit in the longhouses with the Hungwe people, and those are the people of Six Nations. It's called a Thanksgiving address. They give a Thanksgiving address every time before they start a ceremony. They give a Thanksgiving address before they even sit down and have meetings. They give a Thanksgiving address and everything and anything they do within their lives, just to remind themselves and everybody around you how important creation truly is. And we need those constant reminders, each and every one of us. I need those constant reminders. So how is everybody today?
Very happy to be here and to be able to partake of this beautiful session with you here. Very well.
Okay, so everybody can hear me okay? Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to talk about is that Minnewadsland, living that good life. And it's just little snapshots and little understandings. And because each time, and we sit in our sharing circles and our teaching circles, we'll sit and we'll hear that teaching and we'll learn something different. We'll sit and learn that teaching and we'll learn something more. And that's what life's all about. That's what life teaching is all about. And so I just came back from Owen Sound last night. I'm working with a man up there. We're doing a land-based project. And so what they're doing is they're creating gardens. They're creating how they can live off the land and how to, And so one of the things is just like you had shared about is what it is to learn off of the Indigenous holistic way of life. So we had women coming from all over. We had women from Guatemala, Scotland. We had some women that was from her heritage is from Jamaica. And then we had some Indigenous women from Anishinaabe, Lenape, Hongwe. So we all gathered together and we talked about water. We talked about the understanding and importance of water and how it is for us to maintain it, take care of it, and pray for it. So there's women that walk from all over the place. Not only are there men doing apology walks, but there's also women doing water walks, for the healing of our Mother Earth. And that extends to the healing of us, of all nations that are part of the medicine wheel. So anyways, we were out there and we got to do a sweat lodge ceremony. Oh my goodness. First we did a sharing circle and we did some teachings and we talked about that good life. We talked about the importance of who we are as human beings and what our roles are and how we can share each other's roles. And then we're able to go for walks and connect with Mother Earth. We picked medicine, all about what that good life is. So the women got to go pick some cedar. And so that cedar is such the aroma and the medicine, the medicinal that comes with it, and how it pulls and helps the detoxification when you're in a lodge. Ali's been in sweat lodges before, so he knows what I'm talking about. So we had young women. One that was as young as 18 years old, and then we had young women that was as old as in our 60s. It was amazing. It was beautiful. And so we had to have an opportunity to sit in the womb of our Mother Earth, to pray, to sing, and to release and let go, and just to come to that good place. We call that a rebirthing ceremony. We got to go sit and have a rebirthing ceremony, and it was so beautiful. It was so refreshing. And so many of us, and even the men outside the lodge, they gained so much. Just because you're not in the lodge, and that's what I teach, you're still part and connected with us inside. So maybe one day each and one of us, or each of us, could have an opportunity to experience that. I would totally invite you to something like that. I've done that before. I worked for the City of London as an intern for a holistic research project. And what I do there is I do holistic methodology research for a legacy project, residential school survivor project. And so I'm sitting in these boardrooms, and we're doing meetings. We have discussions, and really, really positive discussions. And then one day I said, hey, I want to take you to my boardroom. Can I take you to my boardroom next meeting? And they all looked, and they said, okay. So I ended up calling the Museum of Archaeology. Me and Robin got it together. She called, I called, and they have a sweat lodge out there. So they came, and we all sat in a sweat lodge, and we had our board meeting in there. It was amazing. And of course, I gave them the teachings, and I helped prepare them what they needed to do. So we had the executive director of the Arts Council. We even had one of the counselors from the City of London. She came in, and it was amazing. We got to meet and pray and have discussions that way. But what was interesting is our ancestors got to come in with us too. It was beautiful. It was such a beautiful experience. And that's what Minnewatsauman is. That's what's living the good life. That's what's living the good life. And that's all about sharing. And that's what I want to talk about, is part of the 4 principles and of that living that good life. And these teachings, I want to acknowledge Grandmother Vanaconda. She is such an amazing, amazing grandmother. I sat with her with a group for a good year and listened and learned to listen. And so when I was done, and I still go to sit with her, and I'm still going to continue to sit with her. So when I talk about these principles, I got her permission. I said, hey, I'm going out there teaching and sharing. Is it okay that I'm able to share these teachings that you have passed down to us? She goes, absolutely. Yes, the more people know, the more we're going to learn what that good life is. And so the 4 principles I want to talk about today is kindness. And that sits in the eastern doorway. And then there is honesty. And honesty sits in the southern doorway. And then we talk about sharing. And sharing sits in the western doorway. And then in the northern doorway is strength. And what she shared with me, these 4 principles of that good life helps you so much in so many different ways. And so when we talk about kindness, kindness is all about in that eastern doorway where the sun comes up. And that's all about spirit. In the center, when you look into the center of a circle, I'll show you right here. This is, I have to have diagrams. If I had a flip chart paper behind me, I'd be up here drawing and everything like that. So that's why I have to draw down here. So that's my guide. So we're start in the center. In the center of that circle is your fire. That's your fire. It's all about you. And so when we travel through this good life of Minnebawadsawin, we start in that eastern doorway. And in that eastern doorway, we're given many gifts. In our teaching, Kajamanado gives us many gifts where we're given our spirit name, our clan, our nation, all those wonderful things and what we need to do when we walk here in Mother Earth. And I shared a little bit about that. Mine's about the water. I have my
Muted.
Tracy, your voice is a little, we can't hear it. It's cutting out.
oh, is it?
Oh, now
Okay.
it's better. Yeah.
Is that good? Maybe if I speak a little bit closer, is that better?
Yeah, we missed the last 30 seconds of what you said.
Oh no, okay.
Because after that, we have many gifts. We have many gifts through the eastern door. Spirit name, clan, nation, all of those lovely things. And then we missed the last 30 seconds.
Okay. And so I just shared an example as part of my roles and responsibility is to teach, is to share, is to empower, and to be that Askabe Kwe. You know, that's who I am. And Askabe Kwe in the language means that woman helper for creator, you know. And so, but we're all that, all of us, each and every one of us is that helper for Krishnamata Do, that power, that higher power that helps us to walk through this good life. So in the Eastern doorway, we learn about kindness. And we do learn about kindness because when we're little, when we have those little babies, we show them that kindness, right? We hug them, we love them, we do all those beautiful things to show them about the importance of kindness. And all through the life, we always learn to practice that without trying not to be so judgmental. And most important, not so judgmental on ourselves. Some of us forget to be kind to ourselves. We give so much kindness to each and everybody else, and then we forget about that person in the mirror. And that's so important to remind each and every one of you is be kind to yourself. Be so kind to yourself. So in that Eastern door, it talks about spirit. We're spiritual beings. And a lot of that comes in that awareness, we're aware of what our gifts are. We're aware of our surroundings. And if we don't, we learn. That's why we have these virtual circles here. We learn what that life is. We learn from each other. We learn from listening. And we learn from listen. This was my biggest when I was is learning to listen to learning, you know, and that's so important, especially when we're teaching those wee ones, those wee ones, you know, because they need to be listened to too. They too have a voice. They need to be seen. They need to be heard. They need to be loved, cared, and protected. And that's part of our roles as aunties, uncles, grandmas, grandpas, moms, dads, and extended. In our culture, we have extended families. So you don't have to be biological in order to be that extended auntie or uncle. We'll adopt you. We adopted Allie, we adopted Allie. So, you know, that's what he travels with us. He travels with us to different ceremonies and walks with us, and we all support one another. That's what all my relations is all about. That's what living that good life is all about. So then we go into the southern doorway. And in that southern doorway, that second principle combines together is that kind honesty. So honesty is also one of the seven grandfather teachings. Honesty is all about honoring. Most important, honoring thyself. You know, they go hand in hand. They interconnect together, kind honesty. You know, to walk that good life, you need to have that kind and honesty together. And being honest and honorable to oneself, to to creation. You know, for instance, kind honesty is when the first thing you do when you wake up and you put both feet flat down on the when you in on the floor and you have that breath of life. You know, honoring that first breath of life that was given to you, honoring that breath of life so you can live this good day today. You know, kind honesty is walking outside the door and looking all around you and taking time to acknowledge the land, to acknowledge the water, to acknowledge the air, to acknowledge your surroundings, and sometimes, you know, to acknowledge your family, you know, your partner. That kind honesty is so important in being honest to oneself, being so honorable to oneself. And then once we're able to put that into practice and that and it becomes a way of life, eh? So what I mean, and all these principles are interconnected. So then we have kind honesty in the southern doorway. That's heart day. That's heart. That talks about your heart, emotion. So, and we learn each day. And the reason I talk about it in a circle, because in a circle it's ongoing. It's ongoing. It's never ending. It's never ending, and we're all continuing to learn about these principles. So when I share them, giving you the basics and understanding, but also what I'm sharing with you, you may continue to go east, south, west, and north, and you may come back to that, okay, how can I practice kindness today? What can I do today to practice kindness? And then you say, okay, now they're interconnected. So now, how can I practice kind honesty? How can I do that in my life today? Because that circle is so ongoing and everlasting, I'm going to take us into the next story, which is the Western doorway. And that Western doorway is the mind. The mind and how each of us have that beautiful mind, you know, and how we need to replenish and nurture that beautiful mind each and every one of us carry, that we have inside. So that talks about sharing and, you know, that kind honesty, and then there's sharing. This is what we're doing now. Even though I'm speaking and sharing teachings, so are you. The reciprocity of that reciprocal is you're sharing too with me that energy, your medicine, your thoughts, your beautiful, amazing faces here. Each and every one of you are such beautiful human beings, you know, and how we need to go out there and share our wisdom and our knowledge too. Because I believe each and every one of us here has so much wisdom and knowledge. We're living that good life. We're living through experience, you know, and through those experiences, we picked up so much understanding of wisdom. And so I encourage that sharing of that principle of sharing is so important. And I believe each and every one of us have that role of some sort, whether we're parents, family, or work, or whatever those roles may be. And at times, um, that could be an opportunity of what we need to do and learning how to share and how can we do that. And you know, I just think and I believe that when we have virtual circles like this, or when we get together in gatherings, um, that's where that kind honesty and sharing really comes about. Um, we get to talk about our ancestral, um, what we've gathered throughout the life, our genealogy, impacts in our life, but not only um, not only about those things. Sometimes we have to go back and in our sharing where we need to share some of our hurts and our pains and what we need to let go of, and so that because that's not for us to carry, and there's so many. And how are we going to learn to do that if we don't need to share with one another? Maybe Allie has a beautiful way.
Sorry, we lost you again.
Okay? And so for me, what I do is I like going to the water. I like sitting by the water and just when you hear the sound of that water, it's like that whole cleansing, washing away all of those things that you need to let go. And that's where I'm able to um, talk and pray and just give it all to the water spirits, give it all to the ancestors. And last night, a group of us women gathered, and there's 9 of us, and we sat in the sweat lodge, and we practiced kind honesty and sharing, and by sharing with our ancestors, and our grandmothers and grandfathers, with the connection of the medicines and praying and singing, and we are able to share how we can let go. And sometimes just sharing alone is a process of letting go, letting go of those things so that you can fill yourself with more positive, amazing energy and good vibration. And that's another reason why I go sit by the water, because it gives back and fills me up with goodness. It reminds me of that goodness. And so now we go into the northern doorway. That sits in that northern. And that's all about preservation and maintenance, eh? That's physical. Even though um, spiritual, mental, emotionally and mental, they're all interconnected. They're all work hand in hand together. And so do these four principles. So the fourth principle is strength. And each and every one of us carry that amazing inner strength. And at times, we need to remind ourselves of that inner strength that we do carry. That inner strength of being that good dad, that good uncle, that good coworker, you know, that strength that each and every one of us that carry. And in order to have that strength, you need to have those four principles together, and those four principles of kindness, honesty, and sharing and strength. They're all interconnected. They're all interconnected because each and every one of you have that inner beauty of who you are. You're beautiful, not just this way physically. You're beautiful here in every cell, every every part of your body DNA. Honor that, acknowledge that. That's what I've learned from those grandmothers. That's what I learned and what it is to live that good life. And at times we travel through that medicine wheel because remember I shared with you, it's everlasting, it's ongoing. Because when you look at a circle, you go around and around. And each time you visit, and we do that, we visit each doorway. And it brings us back. And sometimes we need to sit in that eastern doorway for a little bit to understand what that kindness is. And so when I work with youth or young women or Indigenous families and individuals, we do this. We work on this. It's like, when you first learn how to tie a pair of shoes, you had to make the bunny ears and the loop-de-loop, and you made a little song, or you did something to do that. Or it took practice. You did over and over and over again how to tie your shoes. So now it's like when you're getting ready to go out the door, you just automatically do it, right? Well, this is like this good way of life. You practice. You practice and you practice, those four principles of kind, honesty, sharing, and strength. You practice what it is to be that spiritual being. How do you feed that emotion, that heart? What is that heart medicine that you need? How can we feed that mind? Maybe it's sitting down, reading a good book. Maybe it's just having a friendly conversation. Each and every one of us have what we need to do for our own planet care, and it's just designed for us. There's not just one template for all and all. We have what we need, and that's what we do. And that's another teaching. That's what I call that a knowledge bundle. Each of us carry a knowledge bundle. It's like a basket. And in that basket, we have those different tools that help us. Some people like to read. Some people like to sing to feed the mind. Some people pray. Eating that good food, eating those natural foods that have spirit, that feeds the mind. That may feed your spirit. Maybe that's something you need to cleanse your heart. So you see where I'm going. What may help one person of the four aspects will help another part of your aspects. And those four aspects I talk about is physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And so, I just, I think that's all that is for now, and sharing about this good life, because I guess in conclusion and ongoing is it's practice that we continue to do, where the day comes where it's like, you know what, I'm just living that good life now. I'm living, it's my way of life. And it's for me, as that Nokum, as that grandma today, it took a lot of years for me to say, I'm practicing how I need to do this. But today, that Minabawatsuan is my way of life. It is my way of life that Creator intended me to. And it's these four principles. That doesn't mean I'm saying I stop learning. I'm learning every day. I will never stop learning. And at times it made for me to sit with that young woman. I had two young women I brought with me. They were 18 years old and 22. And, somewhere along the line, their spirits got broken. So to be part of that, to be part of that healing for them, because they're the healers. They're the ones doing the healing. I was part of that vehicle to take them to where they needed it. And so they did the work. And that's what I mean, to be able to sit there and to teach them how to practice that good way of life. And we do that by sharing. We do that by talking. We do that by being. And just being those role models. Our children are watching, our nieces are watching, our grandchildren are watching, our nephews are, So to each and every one of you, I send lots of love, lots of amazing hugs, and may Kashamanado, Creator, fill your hearts bodies and spirit with so much love, joy, and happiness for all that there is for today and for as long as each and every one of us walk here on Mother Earth. So I want to end it for now. And I thank you. I thank you for your listening and bringing your medicine here and bringing your spirits here, you know, and I love you all. Miigwech.
Miigwech, Tracey. Thank you so much for sharing those wonderful insights from your heart to our hearts, from your soul to our soul, from your mind to our mind. Thank you so much. We enjoyed it so much. This session is being recorded with Tracey's permission, and it will be made available. We'll send you the link so you can actually, so everyone here, because I know there were lots of other people who wanted to be here today and they couldn't because there were some other events or they're away that conflicted. So this session will be available for those who weren't able to come and have the privilege of being here. It will be available for us to go over again and to learn. Thank you so much for sharing that. It was so heartwarming. It was like a meditation. For me, your words this morning, they were like a meditation. And it really took me to to a different level, to a different zone. And very enlightening and wonderful. And I'm sure all of us will think about this. We will go through it again. We will go over it again, and we will listen to this session again. Thank you so much for sharing, Miigwech. Ali has her hand up, not surprisingly. Then we will, if you're okay with it, Tracey, we will perhaps take some questions. Is that all right with you? That's nice. So anybody wants to either say a comment, make a comment, or say a question, you can either raise your virtual hands up on that side where it's on the participants. You could raise your hand, or if you don't want to speak in person, you can type your question in the chat box, and Sahar and I will be looking at it, and we'll read it out to Monica. So Ali, go on.
Yes. I'd like just to express my my love to you, Tracey. Every time I sit and I listen to you, I learn. I love it when you put it in the four direction, north, south, east, west. To sit and reflect and ponder upon this beautiful teaching that you are teaching us, because it seems like we're able to separate them and reflect on it on a different time and a different direction. Also at the same time is for all nations, you know, and has so much meaning. I know it's so condensed what you said, but my question is it possible for you to share with us some of the teaching of tobacco, and because you touched about a little bit of sweat lodge in there for all of us, because I know very little, and if it's possible, how tobacco came in, and what is the purpose of sweat lodge, and in there some of your teaching that we can share with all of us. Thank you.
Okay. Well, briefly, again, really, really briefly, because in our teaching, the tobacco is a gift from Creator. And when our elders sit and talk with us about the teaching of tobacco, it can take all day, because it goes back to our creation story. It goes back to our original teachings and songs. So how I'm sharing with you right now is really, really brief. And Kujamada ancestors, you know, they have that understanding. But tobacco is a gift from Creator. And that's our connection to Creator. So when we put that tobacco in our left hand, that's closest to our heart. So it's almost like, you know how we have our cell phones and our what we're doing here. That's our how we can communicate with Creator and our ancestors. That's our way of. So when I say when I went by the water to pray with my tobacco, it's I'm connecting and I'm asking Creator to help me to let go of this. I'm asking my helpers because each of us have helpers. All of us in our teachings, we all have ancestral helpers that walk with us and help to take care of us. And as we walk this human experience. So that tobacco, when we put it either to the water, to the fire, or to the land, we are communicating with God, Vijayanado, higher power, creation, you know. And when we offer it to we're giving thanks. That's our way of saying thank you. That's giving thanks. You know, that's why when we say miigwech, yawango, in our language, in our original, anybody's original language, we're giving thanks with that tobacco. It's helping us. So that's one of the first things that starts the beginning stage of any ceremonies, that exchange of that tobacco. So for an example, Ali talked about the sweat lodge. So with the sweat lodge, before any of those things happen, it's almost like beginning that relationship, beginning that life, that what we're going to do in that good life is that exchange of that tobacco, because that's a gift from Creator. You always use that. So when we want to ask somebody to do a teaching, or we ask someone if they want to run a lodge. So I got asked to run a sweat lodge, and a sweat lodge also is like it's circular, it's circular, and it sits on top of our Mother Earth. That's why we call it the womb of Mother Earth. That's another teaching. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. It's amazing. But anyways, so in this, before anything can happen and move forward, that tobacco has to be exchanged. So a person can refuse that tobacco, and not in a non-judgmental way. They can and say, no, I can't at this time. Because when you accept that tobacco, you're making that commitment that you're going to help. You're making that commitment not only to those human beings, you're making that commitment to Creator, to your ancestors, to those grandmas and grandpas. You're making that commitment that you're going to walk into that circle of ceremony with no ego. And you're going to walk in there with that good mind and good heart to help and to teach and to share. And there's those principles again, where you practice that kindness and you that honesty and that sharing, and you're learning how to build inner strength and strength amongst each other. So yeah, so it's interesting. I'll share a story about the sweat lodge. I was asked to go up north around Garden River, Botswana, and for a crisis team, and they wanted to do some team building. So I don't know if they're looking for a workshop to do team building, or but because connecting with all of those and with that tobacco, what came, because you can get messages when you hang on to that tobacco. It's like, wow, okay, team building. We built a sweat. I said, okay, we're going to build a sweat lodge. They says, we are? Yeah. What better way of team building is we have to build our own lodge, because then you're out with creation. You're out in nature. You have to get everything ready. You have to put your tobacco down to ask and say, hey, I'm bored. I need to use these poles to build this lodge. That tobacco also, you're asking for guidance. You're asking that medicine to give you the help that you need. You're asking those four-legged say, hey, I'm coming out here to connect with you. Can you help me? And I'm telling you, I share with you, the power of that sacred tobacco is so amazing. It gives you so many answers that you're looking for. And it does give you the answers. Maybe they're not the way we want it, because as human beings, we want those answers, ta-da! And just like, but when you really look, our answers do come. And I've shared that with others. They do come in such a beautiful way. So yeah, I don't want to get into too much of the Sweat Lodge teachings, but yeah, that's the importance of that tobacco. It helps to open those doorways for us to enter, to be in, to sit in that sacredness. And I teach people every day, the first thing you do in the morning, put your tobacco down, give thanks. Thank Creator for this breath of life. And at the end of the day, put your tobacco down, and give thanks for, thank you for all that I learned today, Yeah, big much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So
I have more questions, but I'll wait.
that's right, you'll have to wait there, Ali. There are a couple of other questions for you, Tracey. One of them is, how does the great Creator fit into that circle and the four principles? We can't hear you, sorry, we can't hear you. Perhaps wait for a few seconds. You've frozen. You've frozen just now, Monica, Tracey.
It comes from Creator.
You've come back right now. So please start from the beginning. We lost you there for
Okay. So that's simple. That's really, really simple. Creator, Vijnana is always and always will be everlasting of every part of those aspects, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically. At times, we don't even aware of it, that Vijnana is carrying us through different things. And we don't, and then we're aware of where we ask for that guidance. So all I can say is, through every aspect as we walk through that good way of life, Creator is with me every step. Here, 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 and all around me.
Very rich. Thank you. I have another question for you. What can you share with us about integrating living the good life as an individual with kindness, honesty, mind, and strength, and how to live with the community and institutional injustices around us of race, gender, climate, and wealth?
Oh, I love it. To me, is most importantly, is what I've learned in this good life is, when you look at that medicine wheel, when you truly, truly honor that medicine wheel teachings, there's every quadrant has a teaching in there that are interconnected as well as white, red, yellow, and black race. And so I believe if we go out more and share and learn about the understanding of the medicine wheel teachings, it talks about each and every one of us, and for all the four races and on all the nations from all around the world has their knowledge bundle. And I believe it's time for us to put that in the center and all of us interconnect together. So how do we do that? We're doing it right now. I think we need to continue to talk and share about that good life and what we need to do to keep it in that good place, that goodness. There's no room for racism. There's no room for judgment. but putting it into practice. And I think what we're doing now is such a beginning. And one of the things is different projects. For instance, the City of London has invited as an intern, an Indigenous intern, to talk about the residential schools. Because the City of London is doing a Call of Action TRC. I think it's Call of Action 82. And what that is they are putting together art pieces that represent the residential school survivors, and to honor the residential school survivors. And the project is called We Are Still Here. And it's in the language. It's in the original language. And so what I'm doing as an Indigenous researcher is education. So that's the other answer. And solution is education, educating about the truth, the true history. And when I sit with them, I says, yeah, our history of where it came from, because I'm second generation residential school survivor, but each and every one of us has our own genealogy of our history too. We have our own impacts. We need to share our
Tracey, you've gone again. We lost your voice again. I'm sure you're going to come back in a minute.
truth. We got you.
Thank you very much. Sahar, I think you were going to ask the question.
Hi, I have a question from Susan. Her question is, how do I learn to respect my ancestors? They were settlers, white European, conservative Christians. You speak with so much honor and respect when referring to your ancestors.
Well, exactly what I shared. It's going back to that genealogy. What I do when I work with Indigenous families is I get them to do, like, we're visual. We learn so much by visual. And so when you do a genealogy, you get to go through and you recognize some of those patterns. You recognize some of those maybe negative impacts. But what you need to do is come to that forgiveness and understanding, right? Forgiving and understanding that, and then that makes you look at some of the positiveness. It makes you look at how we can break the cycles and how we can come to a better understanding. Because, for an example, okay, my mom and I really never had a really good relationship until I'm going to say in my early 40s, and into my 50s. Growing up, the relationship, like, I never got hugs. I never had somebody, my mom, tell me, I love you. And she was in an environment and relationship with alcoholism, codependency, domestic violence. And I never understood, like, all I ever wanted my mom was to tell me she loved me. All I ever wanted her to do was hug me. And I never got that when I was growing up as a little girl. So I had to go back and really take a look at that genealogy. And my mom was part of the residential school. So when she was taken away from her community and placed into a school, and where she was to get educated and learn a different way of life. So her culture was stripped, her roles and responsibility was stripped, her language was taken away, and she was in that survivor mode. So my mom really didn't know how. She didn't know how to be that mom to care for a daughter at the time. So I had to go through that pain. I had to take that pain and look at it and take care of it. And that's where that tobacco comes in, that's where those ceremonies come in, and that's where that help comes in to release and let go. So that's what I did. And it's interesting because when we heal, we're not only healing ourselves, we're healing our ancestors too. Those 7 generations behind us and the 7 generations ahead of us. Isn't that amazing? When I was told that, I go, wow. And it's true. Because I'll tell you something. My mom passed away a year ago in June. She was 70 years old. And she told me she loved me. And every time we talked on the phone and we spent time together, she told me she loved me and she hugged me. And she started talking about her life being in that school. She wasn't in that denial. So you see what I mean? When we heal, we're helping them heal too. So that's how I can share with how that worked for me. Glitch. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Tracy, for sharing those very personal experiences with us.
Of course, of course.
I think it's all of this has relevance to every single one of us in one way or the other.
Yeah, and sharing tears is so important too. You know, sharing that water. That's healing. You know, when we're able to cry and allow ourselves to cry, you know, because then we're not going. It's like, you just feel so good. How, you know, some of us can remember when we have a really good cry, we feel better afterwards.
Tracy, there is Celine wants to ask you a question.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Sepida. And I was trying to write my question and it was very long. And I want to acknowledge your tears, Miigwech, Tracy. I'm holding in my hand, in my left hand, some tobacco that is already tear stained. And I hold it very precious and very dear because I received it when I did the Kairos blanket ceremony. And we were told to hang on to all the tears and to put the tissues in a basket that went to a ceremonial fire at the end of our gathering there because they were all precious.
Mm-hmm.
And so thank you, Miigwech, for all that you shared. And my question is also kind of a comment, and I was very touched by what you said. So many of the things you said. Each time we come back to the teachings, we learn more. Mm-hmm. Each time, and each time we revisit these teachings, we grow. And you say you're constantly learning, and I was constantly learning from what you shared about all of the 4 doors and the 4 directions, and particularly the teachings that you unraveled today, because we know the medicine wheel has so many different facets and so many different teachings in it. The ones that you unveiled today were very much connected with how we make decisions together. And you started with the board meeting, going to the sweat lodge. And what I was thinking and reflecting on before this meeting today was the Baha'is' writings pertaining to consultation. And the principle of consultation in the Baha'i writings is very highly upheld. And it starts with having loving kindness in our hearts for all the members of the circle. Because the consultation cannot happen if we don't hold love in our hearts for each other. And then we need to share our thoughts with frankness and honesty. We cannot hold back those thoughts, even if they might not be the same ones as everyone else may or other people have spoken, because without sharing from our hearts the truth that's from our perspective, then the group cannot come to truth. And so you walked through all of these principles in the medicine wheel today that lead us to taking group decisions. And so I wanted to say miigwech because you brought light upon light, truth upon truth, to my understanding of consultation. And my understanding is that our Baha'i teachings say that the indigenous perspective will illuminate the whole world. And that is what I hope that we can do together, our Baha'i community, with you, is to bring light to the world, to illuminate the world, because one of the challenges today is for people to have unity of vision, unity of thought, which leads to unity of action. And that brings us the strength in the North that allows us to maintain our connections with each other and with the earth and with our Creator. So, Chimigwech, I hope we can find ways to do this in greater and greater circles.
Thank you, Sue. Tracy, please, any comments?
Oh, yes. All my relations, I went, oh my gosh, yeah. And that goes to see when we come together, see the diverse, but yet similar teachings each of us all carry. They're so similar. And we really come together in circles and we start sharing. Our teachings are so amazingly similar. Each of us, like it goes back to our own creation stories. You know, we were given those sacred bundles and all those things to help us, you know, and when we allow and acknowledge that, we start to see and remain in that solution of how that good life really is, you know, and it's just, yeah, that's all I have to say.
Miigwech, thank you.
Catherine, I think you have a question. If you'd like to word that yourself, that would be lovely.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi.
Thank you so much. I'm really moved by a lot of what you said, and I won't go into the details of why. I had an amazing dream last night, and it's like I'm hearing some of the words that were in my dream last night. So it's like, you mentioned in something you were talking about, I think you were speaking about a person can refuse tobacco when they feel, because when you accept it, you're making a commitment to help, that you walk in the circle and into the ceremony with no ego.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I wonder, I think about this a lot in Western culture, like there's a lot of ego. I'd just like to hear if you have more to say about that.
Yeah, you know, we're all human beings, eh? We're all learning. And, you know, when we practice that kindness with one another and, you know, that person that's carrying that grandiosity, that ego, there's two things we can do, I guess. There's many things we can do. We can judge them. We can, you know, join the energy and join the club and continue to feed that, or practice kindness and, you know, sit with that person, talk to them. Maybe if there's some underlying issues that needs to be tended to. I mean, not like when they're starting to start and pull them aside and say, hey, you know what? But there's always a kind way of, you know, talking with, when people have that ego. I used to remember when they said empty God out. That means Creator's not even with you. You're speaking behind that hierarchy way. But when you're speaking, all I know is when you're speaking without ego, you're speaking in the energy and a higher vibration of spirit. You know, and when you're in that kind of vibration in that spiritual realm, there's no room for ego. There's no room. Because you're in that place of love, unconditional love. You're in that place of kindness. There's no ego at all. So yeah, that's what my understanding is. when you're in that spiritual place, in that spiritual way, in that whole that vibration, that energy of unconditional love and kindness, there's no place for ego there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. Are there any other questions for Tracey, for our wonderful elder?
Go ahead, Ali.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you. You know, I have so many questions. I'm trying to respect the timing. And I love listening to you, Tracey. This is a passion for me, which started years ago by having a dream of ghost dancers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how actually I was given my spirit name, Mr. Mikishwanini, Red Sunrise. And that's how I came into connection with your nation, with your beautiful nation. And I love it. It's a way of living for me now. And I pray that I can continue this way of living for the rest of my life. I'm learning so much. Today I'm very touched from what you speak from the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we're all connected from heart to heart. That is no doubt for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I have so much respect for you and for your nations that I have chosen this way of life for me and for my family. But my question is, I know some of it, our friend Celine mentioned it. Can we relate what is happening right now in our world to some of your prophecies? Can you share some of the prophecies of the future for your nation? Because I know for us, it's clear, it is in the writing that you will be so enlightened that you shall illumine the whole world. And I truly hang on that.
Mm-hmm.
It is told in our teaching that it's like a rope when you're drowned in the water, and if you hang on to that rope, not only it will take the children out of that, and also the future 7 generations out of that water where we're drowned. So I sincerely believe that your nation will be so illumined that you will enlighten the whole world. Can you please share some of your prophecies with us at this point? Can we relate this with what is happening right now? And I know it's a vast subject, it's a vast question, but can you please just have a summary with us, Chimikwich?
So the answer to that question is when I share that each of us have our roles and responsibilities and purpose here as we walk here in Mother Earth and as we walk in this good life. And so mine is to teach and to share and to talk and like the water and roles and responsibilities and all within men and women and different nations, all nations, and helping Indigenous communities. And so each of us have roles. So we have people that carry the songs. We have people that carry certain teachings. And those prophecy teachings come from people that hold that knowledge and understanding. So my role in what you're saying and to talk about those prophecies, that is like sitting down in a gathering and really you have to you sit many days, many hours learning about what those prophecies are. And so, but what I can say, the things that are happening right now, and in my understanding of those teachings, because I don't want to, we want to keep things original. We want to keep the teachings original. So those elders that carry those prophecies and those teachings and ceremonies that were related to them, I leave that to them. And I follow their guide, because you understand that interconnection. We're all learning from one another, and we're all helping one another. But what I can share with you and the things that are happening in the here and now is our Mother Earth is what do you call the word I'm looking for? She's regenerating, she's revitalizing, she's replenishing. She's replenishing. And things are changing. Look around you. We have that COVID-19 where they say, quote, isolation, quarantine, but look at some of the positive and the solutions that are happening. Families are talking. Families are sharing. They're going back to the basics. You see so many things, and thank you, we have social media, but you see people talking about gardening, making their own foods, mothers making their own baby foods, and they're allowing more of our Mother Earth to replenish. She's replenishing, she's regenerating, we're changing. And so, the ceremonies, our ceremonies more. And look at what we're doing now. We're reaching out more to one another, and we're asking for help. We're asking for help and guidance from one another. Look at the solutions that are coming out of that. To me, that gives me hope. That gives us hope for the future. Because when I look at my grandson and my granddaughter, that's our future. That's really getting us to sit in that spiritual realm and that energy. What are we going to do differently? What can we do differently to make a better world and a better place for our future? So that's what I can share with you and to that question.
I really appreciate what you say, and I can see these are the first steps towards those broken bridges. So you're building a new bridge toward us in order to be able to communicate and share those knowledges, as you're saying. And I really appreciate. I hope we can build more bridges such as this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know part of what I need to do is to be with women and teach women and help women. But, oh my gosh, 10, 15 years ago, I had this vision, because I have two sons and I have a grandson. And I just have a granddaughter. She's just like 9 months old. So I go, a girl? What do I do with her? Just a beautiful little girl. All I've had was boys. They're rough, But in that, and what I learned is, us women have a responsibility too. We need to support and hold our men up. Those are our sons, our grandsons. How are they going to learn without us women being there to support our men and to say, you know what? The first time I told somebody that, you know what? It's okay to cry. You can cry and release your feelings. And they look, because those old belief systems, men aren't supposed to cry. No, they're not supposed to cry. They're not supposed to show their emotions. You know what? In my life teaching so far, they're the most emotional, caring, loving, amazing human beings. It's almost like they're looking for that permission, eh? You can cry, it's okay to cry. You're still a strong man. You're a stronger man. And they're like, wow. So I just use that as an example. And Allie's right. I'm an advocate for supporting men. They have a voice. They need to be heard. They need to be seen. They also have been assimilated through this patriarchy belief system that, you know, and so many things, but they need to also know that they are part of the circle. They are part of the family, and they are loved, and they are important just like the rest of us. So yeah, that's what I got to say. I could go on because I'm such an advocate for our men. Like that was my last. I just finished school. I went back to school. I couldn't believe it, and my whole studies was around Indigenous missing, murdered men and boys, land-based projects, proposal writing on men's programs, healing programs, and I had to study and have what my argument and why it's important. And it just, I loved it because I dug my research right into it, and I couldn't believe some of the findings I had and how important we need to advocate for our men. And guess what? I'm going to James Bay. I'm one of the developers of a men's land-based project.
Okay.
That's wonderful news. That's wonderful. We know we've been very lucky to connect with someone who is not only very experienced elder, but also who is so involved in the life of society and in rebuilding and teaching both men and women, rebuilding this community in Canada. So we're so grateful to have met you. Thank you, Ali. I have finally one thing to thank you for, Ali, after all these years, and that's for connecting us and me personally and all of us with Elder Monica Tracey White. I see that there are no other questions that people have placed. So if there are any final comments or questions, this is your last chance. Otherwise, we'll open up the meeting. We'll thank Tracey for her time. And we can, you know, if people wanted to stay and have a chat, then they're welcome to. Any last comments for Elder Monica Tracey Whiteye? Yes. Dan, go ahead.
How do we continue this conversation?
Very good question. I think that's probably something that we will have to take outside of this gathering, because I know and I feel that people are very eager to learn more.
Mm-hmm.
We are very eager to learn more. This was a very, very wonderful event, and this was just the beginning, as Ali said. So we will have to be asking for you for your time and for your energy and for your wonderful teaching skills to share with us more. So we will, Dan, don't worry. Even though this is a ladies' gathering, we sometimes once a month we allow some men in as well, as you know. So we'll get back to you about that, right, Tracey?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Absolutely.
about that, and we'll consult outside of this gathering and see how we can continue.
Sophia, I don't know if you can see, but Catherine has her hand up.
Oh, I didn't see. Catherine, go ahead. Catherine
I
doesn't.
just wanted to say, I think, Tracey, you gave us a great idea, raising boys. I get pretty passionate about that topic. I have no formal training in it, but I did raise a boy, and I love the men in my family, and have talked to other mothers over the years about this. I think that would make a great topic for one of our sessions.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good point. Wonderful point. We'll have some special sessions maybe for men and boys then as well with Monica. Okay. Any other questions or comments now? Perhaps you'd like to give us if it's not, or either Tracey or someone else, perhaps we could have a closing prayer. A supplicant.
Oh,
Would you like to do that for us?
Sure. Okay.
Thank you.
I just wanted to, as this circle continues, I just want to give thanks and to acknowledge our ancestors that came today and sat with us and sat behind us and sat beside us and all around us. I want to thank that beautiful, amazing healing energy that helped us and fed us that goodness that we need so we all can go move forward in that positive solution. I want to give thanks to all of creation, you know, those medicines that we carry, those teachings that each and every one of us carry, because each of us carry that wonderful words of wisdom, caring of wisdom, all of those. And as we learn to carry these 4 principles of life, of kind honesty sharing, and kind honesty sharing and strength, that we continue to walk through this everlasting circle of life with goodness, with unconditional love and hope, so that we can continue to heal the 7 generations behind us and the 7 generations ahead of us. And for all that there is, I say, Chimi Gwachkajamanado, Chimi Gwachkajamanado, Chimi Gwachkajamanado, oh, Chimi Gwachkajamanado, Kanagana, all my relations. All right. Thank you, Miigwech.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Monica, again for your time from the bottom of our heart. And we look
All
forward
right.
to seeing you again very soon. Now I'm going to stop.